The radio crackled to life at 11:47 p.m., cutting through the quiet hum of the patrol car's engine. Sarah Collins reached for the receiver, her green eyes already scanning the dark streets of Atlanta's industrial district. All units, we have a 211 in progress. Armed robbery, multiple suspects, victim cornered in the alley behind 1847 Marietta Street. Shots fired. Repeat, shots fired. Sarah's hand moved to the gear shift before dispatch finished speaking. Beside her, Max's ears perked up from the back compartment, his dark eyes locking onto her reflection in the rearview mirror. 6 years together had created an unspoken language between them. He knew what that tone in her voice meant. Unit 23 responding, Sarah said into the radio, her voice steady and professional. ETA 3 minutes, K9 unit will engage. She flipped the sirens on, and the night exploded with red and blue light. The engine roared as she pressed the accelerator, weaving through the sparse late-night traffic with practiced precision. Max shifted in his compartment, his body tensing with anticipation. Through the reinforced barrier, Sarah could see his muscles coiling, ready. "Easy, boy," she murmured, though she knew he couldn't hear her over the sirens. "We go in smart." The industrial district loomed ahead, a maze of warehouses and loading docks that had seen better days. Streetlights flickered intermittently, casting long shadows that seemed to move with malicious intent. Sarah killed the sirens 2 blocks out, letting the car coast into a tactical position. She needed the element of surprise. She parked behind a rusted dumpster and stepped out, her hand instinctively checking her service weapon. The Glock 22 sat securely in its holster, but she hoped she wouldn't need it. That's what Max was for. Opening the rear compartment, she was met with 65 pounds of coiled energy. Max jumped down, his paws hitting the pavement without a sound. The tactical harness fit snugly across his chest, the camera mounted on top already recording. His black and brown coat seemed to absorb the darkness around them. "Max, higher," she commanded softly in Dutch, the language they used for work. He moved to her left side immediately, his body pressed against her leg, waiting. Sarah's earpiece buzzed. "Unit 23, second unit is 8 minutes out. Proceed with caution." 8 minutes. An eternity in a situation like this. She couldn't wait. She moved toward the alley, Max matching her stride perfectly. Every sense was heightened, the smell of garbage and rain-soaked concrete, the distant sound of traffic on the highway, the rapid beating of her own heart. She'd done this dozens of times, but the adrenaline never got old. As they approached the mouth of the alley, Sarah heard voices, angry, desperate, dangerous. "Where's the briefcase, Chen? We know you have it." "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just trying to get to my car." "Wrong answer." The sound of a gun cocking made Sarah's blood run cold. She peered around the corner, quickly assessing the scene. 3 men, all armed, had cornered a 4th man against a brick wall. The victim, Chen apparently, was on his knees, hands raised, his expensive suit covered in grime. Mid-30s, Asian, clearly terrified. The assailants wore dark clothing and ski masks, professional enough to hide their identities, but sloppy enough to trap themselves in a dead-end alley. Sarah's tactical mind processed the scenario in seconds. The lead assailant held a Beretta, aimed at Chen's head. The second had a revolver, nervously scanning the alley entrance. He'd spot her in moments. The third, the largest of the group, held a baseball bat, clearly the muscle. No time for negotiation, no time for backup. She tapped Max twice on his side, their signal. His body went rigid, every fiber focused on the command he knew was coming. Sarah stepped into the alley, her weapon drawn, voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "Atlanta PD, drop your weapons now!" 3 heads snapped toward her. For a frozen moment, nobody moved. Then chaos erupted. The lead assailant spun, bringing his Beretta toward Sarah. "Cop, take her!" "Max! Stellan!" Sarah commanded. The Malinois exploded into motion, a blur of muscle and teeth covering 20 feet in less than 2 seconds. He hit the gunman with the force of a missile, jaws clamping onto the man's forearm before he could aim. The Beretta clattered to the ground as the man screamed, going down hard. The second assailant raised his revolver toward Max. Sarah didn't hesitate. She fired once, the round hitting the brick wall inches from his head. The message was clear. He dropped the gun, hands shooting up. On the ground, now! But the third man, the one with the bat, had other ideas. He charged Sarah with a roar, swinging the aluminum bat in a wide arc. Sarah ducked, feeling the weapon whistle past her head, and drove her shoulder into his midsection. They went down together, rolling across the wet pavement. He was bigger, stronger, but Sarah had training and desperation. She drove her elbow into his solar plexus, feeling the air rush out of him. As he gasped, she twisted, bringing her knee up into his ribs. The bat fell from his grip, and she kicked it away, then pressed her Glock against his temple. "Don't move!" He froze, wheezing. Sarah's eyes never left the other two. Max had the first assailant pinned, his jaws still locked on the man's arm, growling low and dangerous. The second was face down on the ground, hands spread wide, weapon well out of reach. "Max, aus!" Sarah commanded. Reluctantly, Max released his grip, but remained standing over the groaning man, ready to re-engage at a word. Sarah pulled zip ties from her belt with her free hand, securing the man beneath her with practiced efficiency. "Roll over, hands behind your back." He complied, still struggling to breathe. Within seconds, he was restrained. She moved to the second assailant, keeping her weapon trained on him. "Face down, hands behind your head, lace your fingers." Okay, don't shoot." Another zip tie, 2 down. The first assailant, the one Max had taken down, was clutching his bleeding forearm, tears streaming down his face. "Get that animal away from me." "Max, BG," Sarah called. Max trotted to her side, tongue lolling, looking pleased with himself. She gave him a quick scratch behind the ears. "Good boy," then approached the wounded man. "Hands behind your back. I need a hospital, that dog. Should have thought about that before you aimed a gun at someone. Hands, now." He complied, wincing as she secured him. 3 for 3. Only then did Sarah turn her attention to the victim. Marcus Chen remained against the wall, eyes wide with shock, chest heaving. His hands were still raised, trembling. "Sir, are you hurt?" Sarah asked, holstering her weapon and approaching carefully. I don't think so. Thank God you came. They were going to kill me. They wanted some briefcase, but I don't know." "What's your name?" "Marcus. Marcus Chen. I work at Hartsfield-Jackson, operations management. I was just walking to my car from a late meeting and these guys jumped me. Please, I just want to go home." Sarah studied him carefully. Expensive suit, Rolex watch, leather shoes scuffed from the struggle. He looked legitimate, but something in her gut twisted. She'd learned to trust that instinct. "Mr. Chen, I need you to stay calm. Backup is on the way." "Thank you, officer. Thank you so much. You saved my life." Sarah's radio crackled. "Unit 23, backup arriving in 2 minutes. Copy that. Scene is secure. 3 suspects in custody. 1 victim, no officer injuries." Marcus started to stand, brushing dirt from his suit. "Can I go now? I really need to—" "Mr. Chen," Sarah said, her voice taking on a different tone. Max's ears perked up at the shift. "When these men attacked you, they mentioned a briefcase." "What briefcase?" "I told you, I don't know what they were talking about. They must have me confused with someone else." "Where were you coming from tonight?" "A meeting at the airport. Administrative stuff. Budget reviews." "At almost midnight?" Marcus hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. Sarah caught it. "We had international stakeholders on different time zones. Look, I've been through a traumatic experience. Can we do this at the station?" Sarah's eyes narrowed. Her instinct was screaming now. Something was wrong. She glanced at the 3 assailants. They weren't looking at each other or at her. They were all watching Marcus with an intensity that didn't fit random muggers. She pulled out her phone, quickly running Marcus Chen's name through the police database. What came up made her blood run cold. Marcus Chen, flagged for investigation, suspected connection to smuggling operation, person of interest in ongoing federal case. This wasn't a random mugging, this was a hit. Sarah looked up at Marcus, who was watching her nervously. The pieces fell into place. The briefcase they wanted wasn't literal, it was information. Marcus had seen something, knew something, and these weren't thieves. They were silencers, which meant Marcus wasn't just a victim. Red and blue lights flooded the alley as backup arrived. 2 patrol cars screeched to a halt, officers pouring out. Officer Jake Morrison, a veteran Sarah trusted, approached quickly. "Sarah, everyone okay?" "Secure these 3, Sarah said, gesturing to the zip-tied assailants. "Read them their rights: armed robbery, assault with a deadly weapon, assault on a police officer." "You got it." Marcus smiled with relief. "Thank you again, officer. I'll come by the station tomorrow to give a full statement." Sarah stepped in front of him, blocking his path. Max moved with her, positioning himself between Marcus and the alley exit. The smile faded from Marcus's face. "Mr. Chen," Sarah said, her voice hard now, official, "I need you to put your hands behind your back." "What? Why? I'm the victim here." "Marcus Chen, you're under arrest as a material witness and person of interest in an ongoing federal investigation. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." "This is insane. I was almost killed." "You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you." Marcus's face went from confusion to anger to something else. Fear. Real fear. "You don't understand," he whispered urgently. "If you arrest me, if this goes on record, they'll know. They'll know I talked to the police. They'll kill me." "Who will kill you, Mr. Chen?" "I can't." He looked around desperately, as if the shadows themselves were listening. "Please, just let me go. Pretend this never happened." Sarah pulled out her handcuffs. "Hands behind your back, now." "You're making a mistake." "I don't think I am." As the cuffs clicked into place, Marcus's shoulders sagged in defeat. Sarah could see it in his eyes. He knew his life had just changed forever. Saving him from 3 armed men was the easy part. Now came the hard part, keeping him alive long enough to testify. Jake approached, eyebrows raised. "Sarah, what's going on?" "Get him in my car. Don't process him with the others. I'm taking him directly to headquarters. Call Detective Rivera. Tell her I'm bringing in a witness to the Hartsfield operation." Jake's eyes widened with understanding. "Jesus, this is that case." "Yeah." Sarah looked at Marcus, who was staring at the ground, defeated. "This is that case." As she walked Marcus to her patrol car, Max trotting alongside, she replayed the moment in her mind, the moment she'd said those words that changed everything. "You're under arrest now." Not the criminals. Him. She opened the back door of her patrol car, guiding Marcus inside. As she closed the door, their eyes met through the window. His expression was a mixture of betrayal, fear, and something else. Resignation. He knew what came next. Sarah climbed into the driver's seat, Max jumping into his compartment. As she pulled out of the alley, leaving the crime scene to back up, her radio buzzed. "Unit 23, be advised. Detective Rivera wants you to bring the witness directly to interrogation room 3. She's already there." "Copy that." In the rearview mirror, Sarah watched Marcus. He sat perfectly still, staring at his cuffed hands as the city lights streaked past. She'd saved his life tonight. But she'd also trapped him in something much bigger and more dangerous than a dark alley. The question was, would he cooperate, or would she have to drag the truth out of him? Either way, Sarah thought as she merged onto the highway toward headquarters, this case just got a lot more complicated. Behind her, Max settled down in his compartment, still watching Marcus through the barrier. Even the dog knew this was no ordinary arrest. This was just the beginning. The fluorescent lights of interrogation room 3 hummed with a persistent buzz that seemed designed to fray nerves. Sarah sat across from Marcus Chen, a manila folder open in front of her, Max lying quietly in the corner. The dog's presence was deliberate. Suspects often found it harder to lie with those dark, intelligent eyes, watching them. Detective Maria Rivera stood against the wall, arms crossed, her sharp features set in an expression that had broken harder men than Marcus. At 42, Rivera had seen it all, and her reputation for extracting truth was legendary in the Atlanta PD. Marcus looked smaller now, stripped of his expensive watch and belt per protocol. His suit jacket hung on the back of his chair, and his white shirt was wrinkled and stained. He hadn't said a word since they'd brought him in 20 minutes ago. Sarah leaned back in her chair, studying him. "Mr. Chen, you understand why you're here?" "Because you made a terrible mistake," Marcus said quietly. "I'm a victim, not a criminal," Rivera snorted. "A victim who's been flagged by the FBI for 3 months. A victim whose name keeps appearing in surveillance reports. A victim who just happened to be attacked by professional enforcers, not random muggers." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." Sarah opened the folder, sliding a photograph across the table. It showed Marcus entering the cargo terminal at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, timestamp reading 10:47 p.m., just over an hour before the attack. "This was taken tonight. You told me you were at a budget meeting. Cargo terminals aren't where budget meetings happen, Mr. Chen." Marcus stared at the photo, his fingers drumming nervously on the table. Max's ears perked up at the sound. A tell. Sarah made a mental note. "I had to check on a shipment issue. Part of my job." "At 11 p.m.? Rivera pushed off the wall, circling behind him. "Try again." "Look, I don't have to answer your questions. You said I could have a lawyer." "You absolutely can," Sarah said calmly. "But here's the thing, Marcus. Those 3 men who tried to kill you tonight, they're already lawyered up. Professional criminals with professional attorneys. They'll be processed, arraigned, and likely out on bail by morning." Marcus's eyes widened. "You're letting them go?" "The system works slowly," Rivera said, "but the people who sent them, they work fast. By tomorrow afternoon, every criminal in Atlanta will know you were arrested. They'll know you're talking to us." "But I'm not talking." "They don't know that," Sarah said softly. "And they won't care. You became a liability the moment you got in that police car." The color drained from Marcus's face. His hands, previously drumming, now gripped the edge of the table. Max stood up in the corner, sensing the shift in tension. "This is insane," Marcus whispered. "You're trying to scare me." "We're trying to save your life," Sarah said. "Again. But this time, we need your cooperation." Rivera pulled out another photograph, this one grainier, taken from security footage. It showed Marcus talking to a man in the shadows of the cargo terminal. "Recognize this person?" Marcus barely glanced at it. "No. Look closer." "I said no." Sarah's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and her expression hardened. She stood abruptly. "Detective, a word." Outside the interrogation room, Sarah showed Rivera the message from Captain Hayes. "FBI wants him transferred to federal custody. They're sending agents now." Rivera cursed under her breath. "They'll bury him in witness protection or burn him as an asset. Either way, we lose our chance to crack this locally. We need him to talk before they get here. How long do we have?" "Maybe 30 minutes." Sarah looked through the one-way glass at Marcus, who sat with his head in his hands. "He's terrified, but he's not talking. He's more afraid of them than us. Then we need to give him something to be more afraid of." They re-entered the room. Marcus looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. "Can I go?" "No," Sarah said, sitting down, "but I can tell you what's going to happen next. The FBI is coming to take you into custody. They'll interrogate you for hours, days maybe. And when they're done, they'll either charge you as an accessory to whatever smuggling operation you witnessed, or they'll put you in witness protection." "Witness protection? That's good, right?" Rivera laughed bitterly. "Witness protection means you disappear. New name, new city, new life. You'll never see your family again. Your mother in San Francisco, your sister in Seattle. Gone forever." Marcus's composure cracked. "You looked into my family." "We looked into everything," Sarah said. "We know about your mother's medical bills. We know about your sister's kids. We know you send them money every month." She paused. "We also know your salary at the airport doesn't cover those expenses." The silence that followed was deafening. "So that's what this is about," Marcus said finally, his voice hollow. "You think I'm dirty." "Are you?" "No, I'm not." He stopped, closing his eyes. When he opened them again, tears were forming. "I'm not a criminal. I'm just trying to help my family." "Then help us help you," Sarah said gently. "Tell us what you saw tonight." Marcus looked at Max, who had moved closer, sitting at attention near Sarah's chair. Something about the dog's steady gaze seemed to break through his defenses. "If I tell you," Marcus whispered, "they'll kill me. Not might, will." "If you don't tell us," Rivera said, "you go to prison or disappear forever. Either way, your family loses you. At least if you cooperate with us, you have a fighting chance." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, the only sound the hum of the lights and Max's steady breathing. Finally he spoke. "3 weeks ago, I was doing a routine inspection of incoming cargo. It's part of my job, quality control, making sure manifests match contents. Usually it's boring, widgets, electronics, textiles." He swallowed hard. "But this one container, something was wrong. The weight didn't match the manifest, so I opened it." Sarah leaned forward. "What was inside?" "Weapons. Not normal weapons, military grade. Rifles, ammunition, something that looked like explosives, all packed inside furniture shipments from Eastern Europe." His hands were shaking now. "I should have reported it immediately. I should have called security. But You saw an opportunity," Rivera finished. "No, I saw a death sentence, because standing right there, supervising the unloading, was Lieutenant Frank Morrison." Sarah's blood went cold. "Lieutenant Morrison from the 3rd Precinct?" Marcus nodded miserably. "I recognized him from the news. He didn't see me. I ducked behind a forklift, but I saw him. I saw him directing the workers, saw him make a phone call, saw him personally inspect the weapons." Rivera and Sarah exchanged glances. Lieutenant Frank Morrison was a decorated 20-year veteran, respected, connected, and completely above suspicion. If he was dirty, the corruption ran deep. "Did you tell anyone?" Sarah asked. "Are you kidding?" "Tell who? The police?" "He is the police. I went home, tried to forget about it, but then weird things started happening. My apartment was broken into, nothing stolen, just moved, like someone was searching for something. My car was followed. Phone calls where nobody spoke, just breathing." "They knew you saw," Rivera said. "I think Morrison saw me after all, or someone did. They've been watching me, waiting for me to slip up, waiting to see if I'd talk." He looked up at Sarah. "Tonight, I got a call from an unknown number. A man's voice said if I wanted to live, I should bring them the evidence. But I don't have any evidence. I didn't take photos, didn't record anything. I just saw." "So you went to the cargo terminal tonight to prove I didn't have anything. I thought if I showed them, if they searched me and found nothing, they'd leave me alone." He laughed bitterly. "Instead, they sent those 3 guys to kill me in an alley. If you hadn't shown up..." Sarah sat back, processing. This was bigger than a smuggling ring, a police lieutenant, military weapons, Eastern European connections. This was organized crime on a massive scale. "Who else knows about this?" she asked. "Nobody, I swear. I've been too terrified to tell anyone." Rivera's phone buzzed. She checked it and cursed. "FBI is 10 minutes out." Sarah made a decision. "Marcus, we can protect you, but you need to trust us." "How?" "You just said Morrison is a police lieutenant. How can you protect me from someone inside the force?" Before Sarah could answer, the lights in the interrogation room flickered. Once, twice, then went completely dark. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Max was on his feet instantly, growling low. "What the hell?" Rivera reached for her weapon. The door to the interrogation room burst open. Not FBI, not backup. 2 men in tactical gear, faces masked, weapons drawn. "Down! Everyone down!" one of them shouted. But Sarah was already moving. Years of training took over. She kicked the table forward into the nearest gunman's legs. He stumbled, his shot going wide, punching through the drywall. "Max, Stellan!" Sarah commanded. The Malinois launched himself at the second gunman, hitting him chest high, jaws finding the hand holding the weapon. The gun clattered to the floor as the man screamed. Rivera drew her service weapon, but the first gunman recovered, bringing his rifle around toward her. Sarah dove, tackling Rivera out of the line of fire as rounds tore through the space they'd just occupied. They hit the floor hard, rolling behind the overturned table. "We need to move!" Rivera shouted over the gunfire. Marcus was frozen against the wall, eyes wide with terror. Sarah knew they had seconds before more shooters arrived. Before this turned into a massacre, she grabbed her radio. "Officer down! Officer down! Shots fired! Interrogation room 3! Multiple armed suspects!" The first gunman was trying to shake Max off his partner, raising his rifle. Sarah didn't hesitate. She fired twice. The man went down. Max released the second gunman, who scrambled backward, clutching his mangled hand. Rivera put him down with a single shot to the leg. "Clear!" Rivera called out. But Sarah knew better. "They're the advance team. More are coming." Alarms were blaring throughout the building now. Footsteps thundered in the hallway. Reinforcements. But whose? Sarah made a split-second decision that would change everything. She grabbed Marcus, hauling him to his feet. "You're coming with us." "What? Where?" "Anywhere but here." Rivera stared at her. "Sarah, we can't just—" They breached headquarters. They got past security, cut the power, and sent a hit team into an interrogation room. Someone inside helped them. The implication hung in the air. If Morrison was dirty, how many others were? "We can't trust anyone," Sarah said. The hallway door burst open again. Sarah spun, weapon raised. Captain Hayes stood there, gun drawn, back up behind him. "Officers, status?" Sarah's mind raced. Hayes was a good cop. She'd known him for 6 years, but Morrison had been on the force for 20, and everyone trusted him too. "Captain," Sarah said carefully, not lowering her weapon, "we have 2 suspects down. Material witness is secure." Hayes looked at the bodies, at the chaos, at Marcus. "FBI is in the building. We need to get Chen to a secure location immediately." "Where?" Sarah asked. "Conference room A. It's hardened, can be locked down." Sarah's instinct screamed. Conference room A was isolated, away from the main precinct, perfect for another ambush. "Copy that," she said, making eye contact with Rivera. The detective understood. As Hayes turned to coordinate with backup, Sarah whispered to Marcus, "When I say run, you run. Understand?" He nodded, terrified. Sarah looked at Max, giving him the subtle hand signal they'd practiced hundreds of times. The dog's muscles tensed, ready. They moved into the hallway, Hayes leading, backup surrounding them. Too many guns, Sarah thought. Way too many guns for a simple escort. They reached the stairwell. Hayes opened the door. "This way." Sarah's hand tightened on her Glock. This was it. "Captain," she said, "there's something you should know about Morrison." Hayes turned. "What about him?" "He's the one running the smuggling operation." For just a moment, Hayes's expression flickered. Surprise, confusion, and something else. Something that looked like resignation. "How long have you known?" he asked quietly. Sarah's heart sank. Not Hayes, too. "Long enough," she lied. Hayes sighed, and Sarah saw his hand move toward his weapon. "I'm sorry it has to be this way, Collins. You're a good cop." Time slowed. Sarah saw it all clearly now. Hayes would shoot her, blame it on the suspects, and Marcus would disappear. Clean, simple. But Hayes didn't know about Max. "Max! Zoek!" Sarah shouted. The command for protect. The Malinois exploded between Sarah and Hayes, 65 pounds of fur and fury. Hayes stumbled backward, his shot going high. "Run!" Sarah grabbed Marcus, shoving him through the stairwell door. Rivera was right behind them, returning fire at the backup officers, who were suddenly very much not backup. They thundered down the stairs, bullets sparking off metal railings. Max bounded ahead, leading the way with the instinct of a dog who'd cleared 1,000 buildings. "Where are we going?" Marcus screamed. "Ground floor, motor pool," Sarah shouted back. "We get to my car. We drive." They burst through the ground floor exit into the motor pool. Sarah's patrol car was where she'd left it, and she still had the keys. "Get in, back seat." Marcus dove into the back. Rivera jumped into the passenger seat. Max leaped into his compartment just as Sarah fired up the engine. The garage door was closed. Sarah didn't slow down. "Hold on!" She slammed the accelerator to the floor. The patrol car hit the rolling door at 40 miles per hour, tearing through it with a screech of metal and shattered glass. They exploded into the Atlanta night, sirens wailing, every cop in the city about to become their enemy. In the rear-view mirror, Sarah saw Hayes standing in the destroyed garage entrance, radio in hand, already calling it in. "This is insane," Marcus said from the back seat. "This is completely insane." "Welcome to the wrong kind of witness," Rivera said grimly. "You don't just know about corruption, you're the evidence." Sarah's phone was blowing up with calls from dispatch, from other units, from everyone. She ignored them all. "What do we do now?" Marcus asked. Sarah looked at Rivera, then at Max in the rearview mirror. The dog met her eyes, steady and trusting. She'd just thrown away her career, made herself a fugitive, and painted a target on her back. But she'd also done the right thing. "Now," Sarah said, "we stay alive long enough to prove it." As she turned off her radio, killed her phone's GPS, and disappeared into the maze of Atlanta's streets, 3 fugitives and a dog against an entire corrupt police force. The hunt had begun, and this time, they were the ones being hunted. The patrol car's headlights cut through the darkness as Sarah navigated the back streets of Atlanta's warehouse district. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles had gone white. In the passenger seat, Detective Rivera was on her personal phone, trying to reach someone, anyone, they could trust. No answer from Jenkins. No answer from Martinez, Rivera muttered, scrolling through her contacts. Either everyone's compromised or they've been ordered not to talk to us. From the back seat, Marcus spoke up, his voice shaky. "How deep does this go? How many of them are dirty?" "We don't know," Sarah said, checking the rearview mirror for the 10th time. "No pursuit yet, but it was only a matter of time. Could be just Morrison and Hayes, could be half the department." "Comforting," Marcus said bitterly. Sarah pulled into an abandoned loading dock, killing the headlights. The area was industrial, deserted at this hour, a temporary refuge while they figured out their next move. Max shifted in his compartment, alert but calm. The dog's composure helped steady Sarah's nerves. "We need to ditch this car," Rivera said. "Every unit in the city is looking for it. They've probably got the GPS tracked." Sarah had already disabled the GPS tracker, but Rivera was right about the visibility. A patrol car was a neon sign saying, "Here we are." "First, we need information." Sarah pulled out her phone, which she'd turned off after leaving headquarters. "I'm going to risk turning this on for 2 minutes. I need to check something." "Sarah, 2 minutes, then it goes into the river." She powered on the device. Immediately, notification after notification flooded the screen. Missed calls, texts, alerts, and then one message that made her blood run cold. It was from a blocked number. "I know what you're trying to do. Morrison isn't the top. Give us Chen and walk away. Last chance." Rivera read it over her shoulder. "They're offering you an out." "If I believe them," Sarah said. "Which I don't." Marcus leaned forward between the seats. "What if you should? What if this is your chance to what?" Sarah turned to look at him. "Sell you out? Let them kill you and pretend none of this happened? You'd be safe, you and Detective Rivera both." "We'd be complicit," Rivera said firmly, "and dead anyway. You don't leave witnesses when you're cleaning up loose ends." Sarah's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. "Officer Collins." The voice was smooth, masculine, with a hint of an accent she couldn't place. "You've had quite an eventful evening. Who is this? Someone who can help you, or hurt you. The choice is yours." Sarah put the phone on speaker so Rivera could hear. Max's ears perked up at the sound, as if even the dog sensed the danger in that voice. "I'm listening," Sarah said. "You have something that belongs to us. A witness who saw things he shouldn't have. Return him, and this all goes away. You get to keep your career, your life, everything. And Marcus? Marcus knew the risks of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. His fate was sealed the moment he opened that container. Marcus went pale. "Not interested," Sarah said. The voice on the phone sighed. "I thought you might say that. You have a reputation for being principled. Admirable, really. But principles don't stop bullets, Officer Collins. Is that a threat? It's a certainty. Right now, every police officer in Atlanta thinks you're a traitor who kidnapped a witness. They're looking for you. And when they find you, and they will, what do you think happens?" Sarah's jaw clenched. "We'll take our chances." "Will you? How long can you run? Where will you go? You can't go home, can't access your bank accounts, can't reach out to friends or family without putting them at risk. You're alone, Officer Collins, completely alone." "She's not alone," Rivera interjected. "She has me." "Ah, Detective Rivera, the idealist who still believes in justice. Tell me, Detective, how does it feel knowing your captain wants you dead? That every cop you've ever worked with has been ordered to shoot on sight?" "You're lying," Rivera said, but her voice wavered. "Am I? Check the alert that just went out. Your phones are marked as law enforcement, so you should still receive it." Sarah checked. Her stomach dropped. There it was, an official bolo, "Be on the lookout," issued 10 minutes ago. Officers Sarah Collins and Maria Rivera, armed and dangerous, suspected of assaulting officers and kidnapping witness Marcus Chen. Approach with extreme caution. Use of deadly force authorized. Deadly force authorized. They'd just been marked for execution. "Now do you understand?" The voice continued. "There's no backup coming, no cavalry, no white knight. Just 3 fugitives and a dog running out of time and options." Sarah ended the call and immediately powered down the phone, pulling the battery out. "He's right," Marcus said quietly. "This is suicide. You should let me go. Turn yourselves in. Tell them I overpowered you." "Shut up!" Rivera snapped. "Just shut up for 1 second and let me think." Sarah stared out the windshield at the empty warehouse. Her mind was racing, sorting through options, discarding them as quickly as they appeared. They needed allies. They needed evidence. They needed a miracle. "The FBI," Marcus said suddenly. "They were coming to get me, right? What if we go to them?" "And tell them what?" Rivera asked. "That an entire police department is hunting us? They'll hand us right back to local jurisdiction. Or worse, they're already in on it too. Federal agents in on a local smuggling operation." Marcus sounded skeptical. "This isn't local anymore," Sarah said. "Military-grade weapons from Eastern Europe, that's international. That requires infrastructure, connections, money, lots of money. The kind of operation that could afford to buy off local cops and federal agents." Max whined softly from his compartment. Sarah turned to look at him. The dog was staring at something outside. "We've got company," Rivera said, her hand moving to her weapon. A figure emerged from the shadows between warehouses, tall, wearing a dark jacket and jeans, not in uniform, moving slowly, hands visible. Sarah's hand went to her Glock. "Stay in the car." She stepped out, weapon drawn but not aimed. "That's far enough." The figure stopped about 20 feet away. "Officer Collins, we need to talk." The voice was familiar. Sarah's eyes adjusted to the darkness, and recognition hit her. "Officer Trent, James Trent, one of the K9 unit's trainers. Sarah had known him for years, had trained with him dozens of times. He was solid, trustworthy, one of the good ones, or so she'd thought. "What are you doing here?" Sarah asked, not lowering her weapon. "I could ask you the same thing." Trent kept his hands visible. "The whole department's looking for you, Sarah. They're saying you've gone rogue." "And what do you say?" "I say the Sarah Collins I know doesn't go rogue." "Which means either they're lying or something's very wrong." Sarah studied him carefully. Every instinct she had was screaming not to trust anyone, but Trent had always been straight with her. Then again, so had Captain Hayes. "How did you find me?" she asked. "I've been tracking your patrol car's movements since you left headquarters. Disabled tracker doesn't mean disabled completely. There's a secondary system for emergencies." Sarah cursed internally. Of course there was. "Who else knows you're here?" "Just me. I came alone." Trent took a cautious step forward. "Sarah, talk to me. What's really going on?" Rivera had stepped out of the car now, weapon also drawn. "Stay back." Trent noticed her and nodded. "Detective, glad to see you're okay." "Are we?" Rivera asked pointedly. That depends on what you tell me, because right now the official story is you assaulted Captain Hayes, killed 2 suspects, and kidnapped a federal witness. And you believe that? Sarah asked. Hell no, but I need to hear your version. Sarah made a decision. She was running out of options, and Trent was offering something she desperately needed: help. Captain Hayes is dirty. So is Lieutenant Morrison. They're running a weapons smuggling operation through Hartsfield-Jackson. Marcus witnessed it, and they tried to kill him twice tonight, once in an alley, once in headquarters. Trent's expression darkened. You have proof. Just Marcus's testimony, and the fact that Hayes tried to shoot me in a stairwell. That's a serious accusation, Sarah. I know what I saw. Trent was quiet for a moment, processing. Then he pulled out his phone. Sarah tensed. Who are you calling? Nobody, look. He showed her the screen. It was a video, grainy security footage. I pulled this from the motor pool cameras before I left. Hayes ordered the security recordings wiped, but I made a copy first. The footage showed their escape from headquarters, but more importantly, it showed Hayes shooting at them as they fled. Why would you take this? Sarah asked. Because Hayes's story didn't make sense. He said you attacked him unprovoked. But this shows him firing first. Trent pocketed the phone. I've known Hayes for 15 years. Never thought he'd be dirty. But I've known you for 6, and I trust my instincts. Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. An ally, finally. What do we do? She asked. First, we get you out of this car. It's a beacon. I've got a vehicle 2 blocks over. Unmarked, untraceable. He gestured to the warehouse. Then we need to figure out who else is compromised and who we can trust. That's a very short list, Rivera said. Shorter than you think, a new voice called out. Sarah spun, weapon raised. 6 figures emerged from the darkness, surrounding them, all armed, all wearing tactical gear. Not police, not military, mercenaries. Trent's eyes widened. Sarah, I swear I didn't... Shut up! The lead mercenary, a man with a scar across his jaw, gestured with his rifle. Weapons down, now! Sarah's mind raced, 6 against 3. Max could take 1, maybe 2, but that left 4 with automatic weapons. Marcus was unarmed and useless in a fight. The math didn't work. Do it, she said quietly, lowering her Glock. Rivera hesitated, then complied. Trent did the same. The scarred mercenary approached Marcus's side of the patrol car, tapping on the window. Mr. Chen, finally, your boss is very eager to speak with you. Marcus's face was white with terror. Please, I don't know anything. Yes, you've said that. Multiple times, but Mr. Volkov doesn't believe you. Sarah's blood went cold. Volkov, she knew that name. Dmitry Volkov, a Russian arms dealer with connections to organized crime across 3 continents. If he was involved, this was bigger than she'd imagined. The mercenary opened the door, reaching for Marcus. And that's when Max attacked. The Malinois had been silent, waiting in his compartment. But the moment that door opened, the moment a threat got close to someone in the car, his training kicked in. Max exploded through the barrier between compartments, launching himself at the mercenary with a snarl that sounded like hell unleashed. Chaos erupted. The mercenary screamed as Max's jaws clamped onto his arm. His rifle clattered to the ground. Sarah dove for her Glock, rolling, coming up firing. Rivera did the same, taking cover behind the car door. Trent grabbed his weapon and dropped to one knee, providing covering fire. Bullets tore through the night. The patrol car's windows shattered. Sparks flew off metal. Max released the mercenary and went for another, teeth finding flesh, dragging him down. Sarah aimed, fired, dropped one mercenary. Rivera got another, but there were too many. Trent took a round to the shoulder, going down hard. Rivera was pinned behind the car door, unable to move without exposing herself. Sarah made eye contact with Max. The dog understood. He released his current target and bounded to her side, ready to run. "Marcus, move!" Sarah grabbed his arm, hauling him out of the car as bullets punched through the seats where he'd just been. They ran, stumbling into the maze of warehouses. Behind them, she heard orders being shouted, footsteps pounding. Rivera caught up, bleeding from a graze on her arm. "Trent, down but alive. We can't help him now." They burst through a warehouse door, finding themselves in a vast space filled with shipping containers and abandoned equipment. Shadows everywhere, places to hide, but also places to be trapped. Max led the way, his nose working, finding a path through the maze. Sarah trusted him completely. "In here," Rivera hissed, pulling them behind a stack of pallets. They crouched in the darkness, breathing hard. Outside, they could hear the mercenaries spreading out, searching. "This is my fault," Marcus whispered. "All of this. I should have just kept walking past that container, should have never looked inside." "Too late for regrets," Sarah said. "Now we survive." A radio crackled nearby. One of the mercenaries was close. "Sector 3 clear. Moving to Sector 4. Footsteps. Getting closer. Max was tense beside Sarah, ready to attack on her command. But one attack would give away their position to all the others. Sarah's hand found Rivera's in the darkness. They'd been in tight spots before, but never like this. Never as fugitives, with nowhere to go. The footsteps passed, moved away. Sarah let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "We can't stay here," Rivera whispered. "They'll find us eventually." "I know. But where do we go? We've got no car, no backup, and an entire city hunting us." "Not the entire city," a voice said softly. Sarah spun, weapon raised. Officer Trent stood there, clutching his wounded shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers. But he was alive, and he was alone. "Thought you were down," Rivera said. "Takes more than one bullet to stop me. But we need to move. Now. I know a place." "How do we know we can trust you?" Marcus asked. "You don't," Trent said simply. "But right now, I'm the only option you've got." He was right. Sarah hated it, but he was right. "Lead the way," she said. They moved through the warehouse like ghosts, Max at point, Trent navigating despite his wound. Behind them, the mercenaries continued their search, but the maze of containers worked in their favor. They emerged on the far side of the warehouse complex, where Trent had stashed his unmarked sedan. It was old, beat up, but it ran. "Get in," he said. Sarah hesitated one last second, looking into Trent's eyes, searching for deception, for betrayal. She saw only pain and determination. They got in. Trent drove, navigating back streets with one hand, the other pressed against his bleeding shoulder. "Where are we going?" Sarah asked. "Safe house, old department resource, off the books. Not many people know about it." "Who does know?" "Me, and one other person who I'd trust with my life." He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "We're about to find out if that trust is misplaced." The car merged into sparse traffic, just another vehicle in the Atlanta night. Inside, 4 people and a dog, all marked for death, all running on borrowed time. Sarah looked at Max, who had settled in the back seat next to Marcus. The dog's eyes met hers, and for just a moment she found comfort in that unwavering loyalty. In a world where she couldn't trust anyone, she could trust Max. It would have to be enough. The safe house was 20 minutes away. 20 minutes to figure out their next move. 20 minutes before the people hunting them closed the net. In the darkness of the car, Sarah Collins realized something fundamental had changed. She wasn't a police officer anymore. She was a fugitive, and the only way forward was through, no matter what it cost. The safe house was a forgotten relic buried in the oldest part of Atlanta's industrial zone. A 2-story brick building wedged between abandoned factories, its windows covered with steel shutters, its door reinforced with plates that had seen better days. Trent killed the engine 2 blocks away and led them on foot through alleys choked with debris and shadows. "This place has been off the books for 12 years, Trent said, wincing as he clutched his shoulder. Blood had soaked through his jacket, but he refused to slow down. Used to be a surveillance outpost during the crack epidemic. Then budget cuts hit, and everyone forgot about it. "Except you," Rivera said, helping support his weight as they walked. "Except me and the guy who showed it to me when I was a rookie." Sarah kept Max close, scanning every shadow, every doorway. The mercenaries had lost them for now, but professional hunters didn't give up easily. Behind her, Marcus stumbled over loose brick, catching himself against a wall. "How much further?" he asked, breathing hard. Right here. Trent stopped at what looked like a condemned building. He pulled out a key, actual physical key, old and brass, and unlocked 3 separate deadbolts. The door swung inward with a groan that seemed to echo through the empty street. Inside smelled of dust and old concrete. Trent flipped a switch, and flickering fluorescent lights revealed a space that was surprisingly intact. Desks covered in plastic sheets, filing cabinets, a small kitchenette. Upstairs, Sarah could see a loft area with what looked like cots. Water still runs. Electricity's on a separate grid that nobody monitors, Trent explained. We've got maybe 24 hours before someone thinks to check here. 24 hours to do what? Marcus asked. They've got the entire police force looking for us. They've got mercenaries. They've got everything. We've got the truth, Sarah said, though even she heard the hollow ring in her words. Rivera was already at one of the desks, pulling off the plastic sheet to reveal an ancient computer and monitor. Please tell me this thing still works. Trent nodded. Disconnected from the main network, but it can access the internet through a VPN. Untraceable, as long as we're careful. Define careful, Marcus muttered. Sarah turned to Trent. Sit down, let me look at that shoulder. I'm fine. You're bleeding out, sit. Reluctantly, Trent lowered himself into a chair. Sarah pulled off his jacket, revealing the gunshot wound. The bullet had passed through cleanly, missing the bone, but the bleeding hadn't stopped. From her belt, Sarah pulled out her first aid kit. Basic, but better than nothing. Max sat beside her, watching intently as she cleaned and dressed the wound. You're lucky, she said. Few inches to the right and you'd be dead. Story of my life, Trent said through gritted teeth. Few inches from death, always landing on the lucky side. Sarah wrapped the bandage tight, then used medical tape to secure it. That'll hold for now, but you need a hospital. Hospitals mean records. Records mean they find us. He was right. They were cut off from everything that could help them. Across the room, Rivera had managed to boot up the ancient computer. The monitor flickered to life with a buzz that reminded Sarah of interrogation rooms and late nights filing reports. A lifetime ago, though it had only been hours. Okay, Rivera said, fingers already flying across the keyboard. Let's figure out exactly what we're dealing with. Marcus, tell me everything you remember about that container. Dates, times, shipping manifests, anything. Marcus moved to stand behind her. It was 3 weeks ago, October 14th. Container number... He closed his eyes, concentrating. MSCU 7743391. The manifest said furniture from Romania. Company name was Carpathian Imports. Rivera typed rapidly. That's specific. Good. If this is a regular operation, there should be more shipments. While Rivera worked, Sarah checked her weapons. The Glock was down to 1 magazine. Her backup piece, a compact 9mm, had 2. Not enough for a prolonged firefight. We need more ammunition, she said. Trent gestured to a locked cabinet in the corner. Third shelf. Code is 4729. Sarah opened it to find a small arsenal. Clearly, Trent and his mysterious partner had been preparing for something. She restocked her magazines and grabbed an extra handgun for Rivera. Max had been exploring the space, nose working overtime. Now he returned to Sarah's side, pressing against her leg. She knelt down, running her hands through his fur, finding comfort in the simple act. Good boy, she whispered. Best partner I've ever had. Max's tail wagged once, then he was back on alert, ears swiveling toward the door. Got something, Rivera announced. Carpathian Imports has brought in 47 containers in the last 6 months, all labeled as furniture or industrial equipment, all routed through the same cargo terminal Marcus works at. 47, Marcus said numbly. That many shipments. And get this, the terminal supervisor who signs off on all of them, Lieutenant Frank Morrison. Sarah moved to look at the screen. There it was, in black and white, Morrison's signature on every manifest, his authorization on every customs clearance. He's not just part of it, Sarah said. He's running the whole operation through the airport, which means Captain Hayes is probably providing police protection, Trent added, making sure nobody looks too close, burying any investigations before they start. How far up does this go? Marcus asked. If a captain and a lieutenant are dirty, who else? That's what we need to find out, Rivera said. She pulled up another window, accessing police personnel files. I'm cross-referencing everyone who worked with Morrison and Hayes over the past year, looking for patterns, joint operations, shared cases, anything that might indicate collaboration. Sarah watched the names scroll by. Some she recognized, officers she'd worked with, trusted. Any of them could be dirty. There, Rivera pointed at the screen. Detective Howard Chen. No relation, she added, glancing at Marcus. He was on 3 major drug busts with Morrison, all of which resulted in evidence going missing or cases being dismissed on technicalities. Add him to the list, Sarah said. And here, Officer Jennifer Martinez. She was Hayes's partner for 5 years before making detective. She signed off on multiple evidence transfers that later disappeared. The list was growing. 5 names. 10. 15. This is bigger than we thought, Trent said quietly. This isn't just a few dirty cops. This is a network. Sarah's phone, the burner she'd picked up from the cabinet, buzzed. An unknown number. She answered cautiously. Officer Collins, the same smooth voice from before, the one from the warehouse. Still alive. Impressive. What do you want? To make you an offer. One final offer. You've seen how deep this goes. You've seen how many people are involved. You can't win this fight. Then why are you calling? Because Dmitry Volkov is a businessman. He doesn't like waste. You're a good officer, Collins. You and Detective Rivera both. It would be a shame to kill you unnecessarily. Get to the point. Walk away. Right now. Take your dog, get out of Atlanta, and never look back. We'll forget this ever happened. You'll get to live. And Marcus, Mr. Chen's fate is sealed, but you don't have to share it. Sarah looked at Marcus, who was staring at her with a mixture of hope and terror, hoping she'd save him, terrified she wouldn't. No deal, Sarah said. The voice on the phone sighed. Then you've chosen poorly. You have 4 hours, Officer Collins. In 4 hours, we go public with evidence that you and Detective Rivera have been stealing from evidence lockers, taking bribes, working with organized crime. We'll destroy your reputation so thoroughly that even if you somehow survive, you'll never work in law enforcement again. You'll never be believed about anything. You're bluffing. Am I? We have access to police databases. We can plant evidence, alter records, create a paper trail that will bury you. And when the media gets hold of it, and they will, you'll be tried and convicted in the court of public opinion before you ever see a courtroom. The line went dead. Sarah relayed the conversation to the others. Rivera's face went pale. They can do it, she said. With Hayes and Morrison's access, they can plant anything they want in our files. Make it look like we've been dirty for years. 4 hours, Trent said, checking his watch. That takes us to dawn. When the news cycle starts, when people are watching the morning broadcasts. We need evidence, Sarah said. Real evidence. Something so solid they can't discredit it. Marcus had been quiet during all of this, but now he spoke up. I took a photo. Everyone turned to look at him. What? Sarah asked. That night at the container. I was so scared, so confused, but I knew nobody would believe me without proof. So I took a photo. Just one, with my phone, before I ran. Why didn't you mention this before? Rivera demanded. Because I deleted it, or I thought I did. I was panicking, terrified they'd find it on my phone, so I deleted it immediately. But what? Cloud backup. It might still be in my cloud storage. I never emptied the deleted folder. Rivera was already pulling Marcus toward the computer. Log in. Now. Marcus's hands shook as he typed. His personal email. His cloud storage account, the deleted items folder. There, one image file, dated October 14th, timestamp 11:34 p.m. Rivera clicked it. The image loaded slowly on the old computer, but when it did, everyone leaned in. There it was, crystal clear. The open shipping container, military-grade weapons clearly visible inside. And in the background, slightly out of focus but unmistakable, Lieutenant Frank Morrison talking on his phone, his face clearly visible. That's it, Sarah breathed. That's our evidence. We need to get this to someone who can use it, Trent said. Someone outside the Atlanta PD, someone who can't be bought. The FBI? Marcus suggested. No, Rivera said. They're already compromised. We need to go higher. Federal Prosecutor's Office. Specifically, we need... The computer screen went black. What happened? Sarah asked. Rivera's fingers flew across the keyboard. Someone just killed our internet connection. They found us, Trent said, already moving to the window. He peered through the shutters. 2 vehicles just pulled up outside, armed men getting out. Sarah's heart sank. How? The computer access, Rivera said bitterly. Even with the VPN, if they were monitoring for any connection to Marcus's cloud account, they could trace it. We need to move, Sarah ordered. Now. Wait, Marcus said. The photo. We need to... Already done. Rivera pulled a thumb drive from the computer. Downloaded it the second it loaded. This and everything else we found. Footsteps on the stairs outside. Heavy boots. Multiple people. Upstairs, Trent said. There's a fire escape on the backside of the building. They ran. Sarah grabbed Max's collar as they climbed the stairs to the loft. Behind them, they heard the front door being breached with a battering ram. The fire escape was rusted but functional. Sarah went first, testing each step before letting Max follow. Rivera was right behind her, then Marcus. Trent was last, moving slower because of his wound. He was halfway down when the window above exploded outward in a shower of glass. A mercenary leaned out, weapon raised. "Go!" Trent shouted. Sarah didn't hesitate. She grabbed Marcus and jumped the last 6 feet to the alley below. Max landed beside her. Rivera followed. Above, Trent fired twice, driving the mercenary back. Then he jumped too. He landed hard, crying out as his injured shoulder took the impact. Sarah grabbed him, pulling him upright. "Can you run?" "Can I breathe?" "Then I can run." They ran. The alley was a maze, twisting between buildings, over chain-link fences, through gaps barely wide enough for a person. Max led the way, his instincts finding the path of least resistance. Behind them, shouts, gunfire, bullets spanging off brick and metal. Sarah's lungs burned, her legs screamed, but she kept moving. They burst out onto a main street, deserted at this hour, but exposed. A delivery truck was idling at a red light. Sarah made a split-second decision. She ran to the driver's side, badge out, a badge that marked her as a fugitive, but the truck driver didn't know that. "Police emergency! I need your vehicle!" The driver, a middle-aged man hauling produce, looked terrified. "What? Out! Now!" He scrambled out. Sarah, Rivera, Marcus, and Trent piled in. Max jumped into the cab last. Sarah slammed it into gear and accelerated just as the mercenaries rounded the corner. They were in an 18-wheeler now, fleeing through Atlanta in the pre-dawn hours with a thumb drive that could bring down a criminal empire, if they lived long enough to use it. "Where are we going?" Marcus asked. Sarah checked the dashboard clock. 4:47 a.m. Less than 2 hours until the deadline. Less than 2 hours until their reputations were destroyed forever. "The federal building," she said. "Downtown. We get this evidence to the U.S. Attorney's office before dawn. They'll be waiting for us," Rivera said. "I know. It's a trap." "I know." Trent coughed, blood on his lips. His wound was worse than Sarah had thought. He needed medical attention soon. "Then we're driving into a trap with no backup and no plan," he said. Sarah looked at Max in the rearview mirror. The dog met her eyes, steady and trusting. "We have a plan," Sarah said. "We trust each other, and we see this through to the end." "That's not a plan," Marcus said. "That's suicide." "Maybe," Sarah admitted, "but it's all we've got." The truck rumbled through the empty streets, carrying 4 people and a dog toward their final stand. The federal building was 30 minutes away. The sun would rise in 90 minutes, and somewhere in the city, Dmitry Volkov's people were moving into position. The endgame had begun. Dawn was breaking over Atlanta as Sarah steered the stolen delivery truck toward the Richard B. Russell Federal Building. The sky had transformed from black to deep purple, streaks of orange bleeding across the horizon. In 90 minutes, the city would wake up to news broadcasts painting her and Rivera as corrupt cops. In 90 minutes, their lives as they knew them would be over, unless they got that thumb drive to the right person first. "There," Rivera said, pointing ahead, "the Federal Building, 10 blocks. The building was a monolith of glass and steel, government authority made physical. At this early hour, only a few lights were on. Security, maintenance, the overnight staff. But somewhere inside would be federal prosecutors who could take their evidence and act on it before Volkov's people could bury them completely." Sarah's phone rang. Another burner. This one pulled from Trent's collection. She answered on speaker. "Officer Collins." A different voice this time. Female, American, cold as winter. "This is Special Agent Elizabeth Warner, FBI. I need you to listen very carefully." "FBI?" Sarah said flatly. "How convenient. I'm not with them. I've been investigating Volkov's operation independently for 8 months. I know about Morrison. I know about Hayes. And I know you have evidence that could bring them all down. How do I know you're legitimate? You don't. But in 5 minutes, you're going to drive into a kill box. Volkov has 30 men positioned around that federal building, snipers on the roofs, mercenaries in the parking garage, dirty cops blocking the exits. You won't make it 10 feet inside." Sarah's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "Then what do you suggest?" "Turn around. Meet me at the port of Atlanta. Berth 17. I have a team there. Clean agents. Ones I trust. We can protect you while we move the evidence up the chain." "The port," Rivera said. "That's where they're smuggling the weapons through." "Exactly," Warner said. "We've been surveilling it for weeks. We're ready to move. We just needed proof. You have that proof. Bring it to me." Sarah's instinct screamed. Another offer. Another person claiming they could help. How many times could they trust before that trust got them killed? Beside her, Trent was getting worse. His breathing was shallow, his face pale. He needed medical attention within the hour, or he'd go into shock. "What do you think?" Sarah asked Rivera quietly. "I think we're out of options. The federal building is a trap. We know that now, but the port could be a trap too." Marcus leaned forward from the back. "What if we split up? Some of us go to the federal building as a diversion, while the others take the evidence to the port." "No," Sarah said firmly. "We stay together." Max, sitting in the passenger footwell, lifted his head and whined. He could sense the tension, the fear radiating from everyone in the truck. "Agent Warner," Sarah said into the phone, "how do I know your team is clean?" "You don't. But ask yourself this. If I was working with Volkov, why would I bother calling you at all? Why not just let you walk into the trap at the federal building?" It was a good point. Too good. "We'll meet you," Sarah said. "But we're coming in hot and cautious. Any sign this is a setup, we're gone." "Understood. Berth 17, 20 minutes. The line went dead. Sarah changed course, heading toward the port. The industrial shipping complex sprawled across the southern edge of Atlanta, a forest of cranes and containers where legitimate commerce mixed with illegal shipments every single day. As they drove, Rivera worked the computer tablet she'd grabbed from the safe house, pulling up schematics of the port. "Berth 17 is on the eastern edge," she said. "Water access, limited visibility from the main terminal. Good for a covert meeting. Also good for an ambush." "Everything's good for an ambush at this point," Trent muttered. Blood had soaked through his bandages again. "We're rats in a maze, and they're controlling all the exits." Sarah glanced at him. "You should stay with the truck. Get medical attention." "Not a chance. You need every gun you can get." The port appeared ahead, massive and sprawling. Chain-link fences topped with razor wire, guard stations, security cameras everywhere. Sarah killed the headlights and approached slowly, looking for the access road that would take them to Berth 17. "There," Marcus pointed. "Service entrance. Gates open." Too convenient, Sarah thought. But they were committed now. She drove through, following the maze of container stacks toward the water. The sky was lighter now, the sun minutes from breaking the horizon. Soon the port would come alive with workers, forklifts, activity. For now, it was a ghost town of steel and shadows. Berth 17 came into view. A cargo ship was docked there, partially unloaded. Containers were stacked on the pier, and near the water's edge stood a woman in a dark suit, flanked by 4 men in tactical gear. "That's our FBI welcome committee," Rivera said. Sarah stopped the truck 50 yards away, engine running, ready to reverse if needed. "Stay here," she told Marcus and Trent. "If this goes bad, you drive away. Don't look back." "Sarah," Trent started. "That's an order." She stepped out of the truck, Rivera beside her, Max at her heel. The cold morning air hit her face, carrying the smell of salt water and diesel fuel. The woman, Warner presumably, walked forward, hands visible and empty. "Officer Collins, Detective Rivera, thank you for trusting me." "We didn't say we trust you," Sarah replied. "We're just out of better options." Warner smiled thinly. "Fair enough. The evidence?" Rivera held up the thumb drive. "Everything. Morrison's involvement, Hayes's signatures, the shipping manifests, photos of the weapons. Enough to bring down the whole network." "May I see it?" "Not yet," Sarah said. "First, I want to see your credentials. Real ones, not just a phone call and a suit." Warner pulled out her FBI badge and ID. Sarah examined them carefully. They looked legitimate, but she'd seen enough forgeries to know appearances meant nothing. "Call your field office," Sarah said. "Right now. Have them confirm your identity and your investigation into Volkov. That will take time we don't have. Make the time." Warner's expression hardened. For a moment Sarah thought she'd refuse. Then she pulled out her phone and dialed. "This is Special Agent Warner, ID number 77492. I need immediate verification sent to..." She looked at Sarah's phone, reading off the number. "Confirm I'm actively investigating Dmitry Volkov's weapons smuggling operation." 30 seconds later, Sarah's phone buzzed. An official FBI email, complete with letterhead and encryption keys, confirming Warner's identity and investigation. Sarah looked at Rivera, who nodded. It checked out. "Okay," Sarah said. "The evidence is yours, but we're coming with it. We testify, we see this through. Of course, my team will escort you to..." The cargo ship's horn blasted, deafeningly loud. Sarah spun toward the sound, and that's when everything went to hell. The containers stacked on the pier weren't empty. Doors burst open, and mercenaries poured out, dozens of them heavily armed, moving with military precision. Warner's tactical team raised their weapons, but not at the mercenaries, at Sarah and Rivera. "I'm sorry," Warner said, and she actually sounded regretful. "I really am, but Volkov pays better than the government ever could." Sarah's hand went for her Glock, but one of the fake FBI agents already had his rifle trained on her chest. "Don't," he said simply. Rivera's face twisted with rage and betrayal. "You sold us out." "I sold out 8 months ago," Warner said. "Everything since then has been theater. Volkov needed to know how much you knew, who you'd talked to, what evidence you had, and you delivered it all right into my hands." She held out her hand. "The thumb drive, Detective." Sarah's mind raced. They were surrounded, outgunned, betrayed. Max was growling low, ready to attack, but 1 dog against 30 armed men was suicide. Rivera looked at Sarah. In that moment, 6 years of partnership communicated everything. They'd been through too much to give up now. Rivera threw the thumb drive, not to Warner, into the water. The small piece of plastic arced through the air and splashed into the dark water of the berth, sinking immediately. Warner's composure cracked. "What have you done?" "Destroyed the only copy," Rivera said. "Now you've got nothing. You stupid..." Warner gestured to her team. "Get divers in that water. Find it now." As the mercenaries scrambled, Sarah saw her opening. The momentary chaos, the distraction. "Max," she said quietly, "Besherman. Protect." The Malinois exploded into action. He hit the nearest mercenary low, going for the legs, bringing him down. The man's rifle clattered away. Sarah dove for it. Rivera was already moving, tackling one of Warner's fake agents, fighting for his weapon. Gunfire erupted, but in the chaos, with their own people in the line of fire, the mercenaries couldn't shoot without hitting each other. Sarah came up with the rifle, firing in controlled bursts. Training took over. Breathe, aim, squeeze. She dropped 2 mercenaries before they could react. Max had moved to another target, his jaws finding an arm, disarming another shooter. Rivera had a weapon now too. Back to back with Sarah, they formed a defensive position. "We can't hold this," Rivera shouted over the gunfire. "We don't have to. Just buy time." For what? Sarah didn't answer. She was counting on a prayer, a hope, a desperate gamble. The cavalry she'd called for before they'd even left the safe house, because Sarah Collins hadn't survived 6 years as a K-9 officer by walking into traps unprepared. The burner phone Warner had called her on, it wasn't just a phone. It was transmitting their GPS location, transmitting audio, transmitting everything to the one person Sarah knew with absolute certainty wasn't dirty. Officer James Rodriguez, her academy classmate, her friend, the one person she'd managed to text from Trent's collection of burners with a simple message: "Compromised, tracking my location. If I end up at the port, bring everyone you trust." The sound of helicopters cut through the gunfire. 3 of them appearing over the port like avenging angels. Searchlights blazed down, illuminating the entire berth in harsh white light. "Atlanta PD! Drop your weapons! You are surrounded!" The mercenaries hesitated, looking to Warner for orders. Warner's face was a mask of rage. She grabbed a weapon from one of her men and aimed it directly at Sarah. "If I'm going down, you're coming with me." Time slowed. Sarah saw Warner's finger tighten on the trigger. She knew she couldn't move fast enough. This was it. Max hit Warner like a freight train. The shot went wide as the dog's weight knocked her backward. Max's jaws clamped onto her weapon arm, shaking, forcing her to drop the gun. "Max, aus!" Sarah commanded. "Release!" Max obeyed but stayed standing over Warner, teeth bared, daring her to move. The helicopters had landed now. Real police. Rodriguez had brought 30 officers, all ones he trusted, all ones with clean records. The mercenaries, seeing they were outnumbered and outgunned, began dropping their weapons. Rodriguez ran to Sarah, weapon drawn but pointed at the surrendering suspects. "You okay?" "Better now," Sarah said, breathing hard. She looked at Warner, who was clutching her arm, blood seeping through her fingers. "Special Agent Warner, you're under arrest for corruption, conspiracy, attempted murder, and really bad acting." Warner spat blood. "Volkov will never see trial. He's got connections you can't imagine. He'll be out of the country before you finish processing me." "Maybe," Sarah said, "but that's not my problem anymore." Rivera had moved to the water's edge, where divers were pulling the thumb drive from the shallow water. "Got it! It's waterproof!" Of course it was. Rivera was too smart to throw away their only evidence. The sun had fully risen now, bathing the port in golden light. Around them, mercenaries and corrupt agents were being cuffed and read their rights. News helicopters were arriving, cameras already rolling. Sarah found Marcus and Trent, who had stayed with the truck as ordered. Trent was barely conscious, but alive. Paramedics were already working on him. "Is it over?" Marcus asked. "The fighting is," Sarah said. "The rest, that's just beginning." In the distance she could hear sirens, more backup, federal prosecutors, real FBI agents. The machinery of justice slowly grinding into motion. Rodriguez approached with a tablet. "Sarah, you need to see this. Morrison and Hayes were just arrested at their homes. When they heard about the port, they tried to run. We got them." Sarah took the tablet, watching body cam footage of Morrison being led out in handcuffs, his face a mask of disbelief. "How many others?" she asked. 15 officers so far. Maybe more as we dig deeper." Rodriguez shook his head. "This is going to tear the department apart. Better torn apart than rotten from the inside." Rivera joined them, thumb drive secured in an evidence bag. "The U.S. Attorney's Office is sending someone. They want our statements, they want the evidence, and they want it all documented before anyone can try to bury it again." Sarah looked at Max, who sat at her feet, panting, looking pleased with himself. She knelt down, scratching behind his ears. "Good boy, best boy. You saved my life." "Again," Max's tail wagged. "Officer Collins." A new voice. Sarah turned to see a woman in an expensive suit, flanked by actual federal agents. I'm Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Chen. I understand you have evidence regarding a weapons smuggling operation involving multiple Atlanta police officers and Russian organized crime. Yes, ma'am. I'll need your full cooperation. This is going to be a long process. Trials, testimonies, probably witness protection for Mr. Chen. Sarah nodded. Whatever it takes. Chen looked at Max. Is the dog part of your testimony? He's part of everything, Sarah said. Chen almost smiled. Then I suppose he'll need witness protection too. 3 months later, Sarah Collins stood in federal court, wearing her dress uniform, Max sitting at attention beside her chair. The trial of Lieutenant Frank Morrison and Captain James Hayes had drawn national attention. Corruption this deep, this widespread made headlines. Marcus Chen had already testified, his photo evidence displayed on screens throughout the courtroom. Rivera had given her statement. Now it was Sarah's turn. Officer Collins, the prosecutor began, can you tell the court what happened on the night of October 21st? Sarah took a breath. Then she told them everything, the alley, the arrest, the interrogation, the betrayal, the running, the fighting, every detail, every moment leading up to that final stand at the port. Morrison's lawyer tried to discredit her, tried to paint her as a rogue cop with a vendetta, but the evidence didn't lie. The thumb drive contained everything. And when Max was brought forward to demonstrate his abilities, showing the court exactly how a K9 unit operated, even the hardest skeptics were convinced. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, guilty on all counts. Morrison would spend the rest of his life in prison. Hayes got 30 years. Warner, who'd tried to cut a deal, still faced 25 to life. Dmitry Volkov had fled to Russia, but his American operation was dismantled. 47 shipping containers of weapons were seized. Hundreds of arrests were made across 3 states. The corruption was purged. And Sarah Collins, the officer who'd refused to look the other way, became something she never wanted to be, a hero. 6 months after the trial, Sarah sat in the briefing room of the newly reformed Atlanta PD's K9 unit. Captain Rodriguez, promoted after helping expose the corruption, was addressing the assembled officers. We're rebuilding this department from the ground up, he said. New protocols, new oversight, new leadership, and new training standards. Officer Collins has agreed to head our K9 training program. Applause rippled through the room. Sarah stood, Max beside her. I'm not a hero, she said. I'm just someone who had a good partner. She looked down at Max. The best partner. And if we're going to rebuild, we're going to do it the right way, with loyalty, with integrity, with dogs who trust us and officers who deserve that trust. More applause. After the briefing, Sarah walked outside into the Atlanta sunshine. A new patrol car waited, her name already stenciled on the side. Max jumped into his compartment, ready for duty. Rivera walked over, now a lieutenant herself. First day of the new era. How does it feel? Like we actually made a difference, Sarah said. For once. Marcus sent me a message. He's in Wisconsin now, new identity, new life. Says to tell you thank you. Tell him to stay safe. I will. Rivera smiled. You ready to get back out there? Sarah climbed into the driver's seat, looking at Max in the rearview mirror. The dog met her eyes, steady and loyal as ever. Yeah, Sarah said. We're ready. She started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot, Max and her back on patrol, back to serving and protecting, but this time in a city slowly learning to trust its police again. Because one officer and her dog had stood up when it mattered most, had refused to back down, had proven that justice, real justice, was still possible. Sarah Collins drove into the city, the radio quiet, the morning peaceful. And somewhere behind her, the people of Atlanta slept a little safer, knowing that the officers sworn to protect them actually meant it. The hunt for corruption was over. The work of rebuilding had just begun. But for Sarah and Max, it was just another day, just another shift, just another chance to do the job right, together.